Senior Report thanks Edmund Besch of Bristol Burgess Insurance Agency, 65 East Main Street, Westfield, for his generous grant to provide news to seniors. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Funding for Senior Report is provided in part by a grant from Andrew Goodell, Assemblyman for the 150th District of the New York State Assembly. Dave Cass and Rick Newell provide funding on behalf of the Lakeview Hotel and Restaurant at the Docks, located on Water Street near the lake in Mayville. Senior Report with Reed Powers thanks Westfield's Schultz Chevy for a generous grant to inform seniors of important news. Over 50 years of service to Westfield by Chevrolet, Schultz Chevy across from the school. The physicians of Jamestown Primary Care are happy to sponsor the Senior Report. From the Access Channel 5 television studio in Mayville, it's Senior Report with Reed Powers. Senior Report is broadcast live throughout northern Chautauqua County on Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. each week. Call in and share a thought, make a comment, ask a question, or simply wish someone a happy birthday on Chautauqua County's only live call-in senior program. Since 1995, Reed has been bringing viewers hundreds of interesting guests, informing the community on a variety of subjects. Here's the host of the show, Reed Powers.
And what a beautiful day. Oh, look at the hair. What a beautiful day in Chautauqua County. The snow is coming down like gangbusters. I've never seen so much snow in such a short time. I couldn't get up the hill to get up to Academy Street on the front end, so I had to go around the back end, take Maple and up and then over. I made it okay. But I want to thank our guest, Lori Cornell. She's a minority leader over in the legislature. She came in, and all the team came in. Everybody's here. Good morning, Don. Don Zenz, among others. He's doing the photography here, the cameras. I just wanted to thank everybody who called in and sent us gifts and the cards and everything for Christmas. It's just been a wonderful time. We certainly had a white Christmas, too. And we're going to have a much whiter Christmas afterwards, Christmas, maybe a whiter New Year's Day. They tell me it could be up to 6 feet or whatever. I don't know how accurate that is, but watch out. Drive carefully, folks. I came over from Westfield to Ripley from Westfield to Mayville at 30 miles an hour, and I thought that was a little too fast, but we made it. Okay, we have a lot of news going on besides the snow that's flying all over the place and the heavy-duty snow, too. We have on the national level, of course, the so-called financial cliff or fiscal cliff, which is just, I think it's just bunkum and window dressing. They'll have to take care of it, and it'll be done in the wee hours of the evening and the night when everybody's asleep. And there'll be several votes, so everybody can vote against it and then for it. But ultimately, you will pay higher taxes. Just mark my words. You heard it first on Senior Report. The middle class will get a tax increase out of this. And then the whirl around this, everybody will say, gee, it's wonderful. We saved the country. We saved the world. And don't worry about that little tax increase you got, folks. And the rich won't get as much either. Believe me, that's the way it always works around here. On the state level, the state finally, again, I mentioned this last week, has rescinded their huge tax on trucks on the thruway, which there's not supposed to be any tolls. They promised us when we voted for it back in the 50s that the tolls would end after 30 years when the payment was made on the bonding. Well, they paid off the bonding, and guess what? The tolls went on and going up and up and up and up. We just had another toll increase. And this 46% toll increase on trucks was just too much to handle. Finally, they backed off on it. Praise the Lord for small favors. Because you know who pays for it. It's not the truckers. You pay for it. Because they sell it higher at the supermarket, and the supermarket charges you more, and it's out of your pocket, baby. All right. Statewide, up to finish shenanigans. Locally, we've got the minority leader of the legislature, Lori Cornell, who's going to be talking about some of the events we have here going on, especially the tax increase that was predicted by certain people, such as Mr. Crosscut. We'll talk about that. Get ready to reach into your pocket again. Taxes keep going up, services keep going down. At least in Westfield, they have that little plow that plows the sidewalks. It's still been kept. I was afraid it wouldn't be running, but it's running. It's beautiful. A lot of things happening. Lord knows. Chautauqua County is a lovely place to live. It's the best place in the world. Otherwise, I would have moved to Alaska, where they don't have taxes. They have untaxes. Yeah, they give you money every year. How about that? Right, because they make a lot of money on the oil and natural resources, and so they share that with the citizens in Alaska. Although the housing there, I noticed, I watched that program, Buying Alaska, on the cable, and the housing there is hysterical. I mean, just for a little shack, you pay $150,000. Down in Westfield, where I live, or any of the local communities here, you could buy half the town for $150,000. I've seen houses, a lot of them going for 25 and under. All right, enough said. Lots of good stuff happening locally. I'll start out with the Mount Carmel Social Club. You know, churches all have their senior groups, towns, villages, burgs, whatever. They all have senior groups, and it's just terrific. And each one is better than the other. I think they're all just wonderful, wonderful places to go and get warmth and comfort from friends and folks your age and who've been through the same cycle you've been through. And it's just a terrific place to go. You have a wonderful support group, too. And the seniors watch each other. You know, they call, are you okay? Everything's going all right? I haven't seen you? Yeah. It reminds me of the joke about the guy who goes to the bar. I haven't seen you. And some sweet little thing comes up and says, oh, I haven't seen you here before. And he says, I've been away. She says, oh, where have you been? He says, I was in jail. Are you in jail? And yeah, he says, I was in jail. She said, oh my gosh, what did you do? I said, I murdered someone. She said, oh my Lord, who did you murder? He said, I murdered my wife. She said, you're single. Yeah, all right, enough of that nonsense. On December 19th, the Mount Carmel held its annual Christmas party at the Colony House in Irving. How about that? What a nice place. Father Dan Fablecorn gave the prayer of thanks, and it is time to be thankful. Christmas is a wonderful time, a time of giving, a time of love, a time of thanks. It's just terrific. Carmen Tampia was the president over there at Mount Carmel, and she thanked everybody for a wonderful setup and a great dinner. Their next meeting, January 2nd, where you will meet Vince and Carm Tamio. They set up the food and everything, help out. Silver Creek Seniors, they meet regularly, have their own place. Ed Newman is the president, and Newman announced that Ernie Hilliker was absent due to a health problem. He's in ill health. I'm sorry to hear that, Ernie. But you know, oftentimes we have illness, and the nice thing about, again, being a member of a senior club is they drop around, and they remember you, and they take care of you. Joan Suski called bingo. Everybody has bingo at the end of the meeting. We love it. The next meeting they'll have will be 1 p.m., January 8th. It's my son's birthday. Pizza will be served. Okay. Brockton Portland crowd. Their president over there is Robin Carr, and they have a lot of things going on. They're very busy. Bob and Margaret Jacoda and Ruth Neal set up favors and gifts and so forth. So a wonderful dinner was lasagna or prime rib. I think I mentioned that. I'll take the prime rib, thank you. thanks to the St. Stephen's staff who did it for them. And what a bunch over there. They're terrific. They gave something to the kitchen food pantry for the club's donation, too. Excuse me. You can see I'm feeling the weather myself. Let's see. The new officers, I'll mention that. These people work hard for nothing. President is Margaret Jagoda. Vice is Rick Cranston. Secretary, excuse me, Ruth Neal. And Assistant Secretary Robin Carr. Rita Stonefoot is the treasurer. I'm getting the flu too. You get the flu? I get the flu too. Mayville, what a bunch. We're sitting right in Mayville now. Very little traffic, fortunately. And I don't have four-wheel on my car, darn it. I should have, getting around this weather. President over in Mayville is Joyce Ayers, and if you wanted to have any contact with him, just call her. And Chaplain Diane Goodrich asked for a blessing for the meal and the group and everybody there. Richard Curtis, Eileen Little, and Fern Abrams are life members. How about that? And they have a birthday, so wish them a happy birthday. Richard Curtis, Eileen Little, and Fern Abrams. I got to get my guest out here so she can talk. Don't forget to contribute to the Christmas Family Fund. It's at this point you can contribute for next year, I think. All right, enough said. Next meeting, if you want to meet the Mayville crowd, January 3rd. And it'll be at noon at the Mayville VFW. They always meet at the VFW at noon. And you'll have a lot of time there. Silver Creek crowd, Ed Newman, what a job he does over there. They have a great bunch. They have their own house. They take care of it. Oh, what they don't do. The drawing was won by Newman, I might add. How about that? The president should win the drawings. They had a wonderful meal. Prime rib and breaded pork chops. Salad rolls, baked potatoes. These guys know how to eat, huh? All right. Westfield, they meet at the YWCA, and they have a wonderful potluck meal usually. They all bring something in, and usually the main course is bought by the club. And happy birthday over there, Darla Auger, Merwin, and Betty Wilson, Irma Lloyd, Ralph Rakely, Dick Lancaster, Mary Bell, B, actually. She's been on our show. She's a town historian, village historian. Chris Vistran, happy birthday to all these guys. Gladys Hess. Dan and Gladys just had a anniversary. Dolores Kaufman, Mitty Riddle, get well. Officers were all installed by past president and very active young lady, Fran Anderson. And I want to say hello to all those people in the Westfield group. At this point, I'm going to take a brief break because we have the guy you always wait for, John Doc Hamels, coming up, but I still have a wonderful public service announcement just for you. Here you go.
In order to beat breast cancer, I knew I would have to lose my breasts, but to reclaim my life, I chose breast reconstruction.
Each year, nearly 150,000 women will learn they will undergo a mastectomy due to breast cancer. But 7 out of 10 women are never told about their breast reconstruction options. Breast reconstruction is a very important part of the healing process, both physically and emotionally. Download my song Flower to share the message and help us share the fact that women can feel whole again.
I almost skidded down to the diner and called up here and said, somebody with four-wheel, come pick me up. You know?
Well, that's right.
I'm talking with Lori Cornell about the craziness of getting around in this weather. We're at the top of the hill on Academy, you know, where the old school is. And I always go up from the bottom of the hill, but it doesn't work. You had to go all the way up to Maple, cut over, get onto Academy, and then come down. And that worked. Unfortunately, Lori didn't know that, so she parked out a quarter of a mile away or whatever. I'll have to give you a ride down anyway.
That's a job.
Lori Cornell is the director of the legislature, and she'll be on shortly. We do have John Hamels, and he shoots from the hip. And I don't know. There we go. Okay.
Oh, my God. How do you do that? Gun control, buddy. Watch it. Come Good morning, Lori. Welcome back. Good morning, everyone. Well, I didn't have any trouble coming up the hill. I threw it in four-wheel drive. Donald did the same thing. He was telling me. It's a slippery out there, folks, so don't underestimate it. We got that little slushy stuff in that. But anyways, I was telling Lori, we're live in Jamestown, right? Channel 8, I believe it is. So good morning to Jamestown, Fredonia. We're all over the place. Channel 19. Well, if they're on 8, they wouldn't hear me anyways, right? Good morning, everyone.
And they also run it every day at, I believe, 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful.
You have a wonderful opportunity to catch Senior Report.
Well, and that's the nice thing about this show is that we cross all over the place, and everything we talk about, for the most part, is countywide, so it's a good thing. Today, Reed, I want to just kind of do some reflection on the American process of problem solving, I guess I'd call it. This whole issue about the shooting in Sandy Hook, and now this crazy guy that started those fires and shot those volunteer or firemen, I guess they were. I don't think, were they volunteer? Yeah. Volunteer firemen. Just tragic, totally tragic. But here's my thinking on all this. Okay, this is all going to come down eventually to the county level, to the school level, to the town level of how we're going to deal with a social issue of this magnitude. Lori, I don't know if this is going to be hitting the legislature, but I have a feeling it's going to start at the federal level like most things do, and then it's going to trickle its way down through the various state, county, and so forth. So here's some of my thinking right now as I'm looking, watching TV, reading articles, talking to people in my own circles and so forth. I think the good news is most of the people I talk with are pretty much on the same page. They see this as a multifaceted issue, and that it's not a simple one fix all, one size all for all issues type thing. It's not going to be a Band-Aid approach, but we're hearing things that are happening right now that are Band-Aid approaches, and I just wanted to comment a little bit about some of those things. Sometimes people consider me a liberal. Sometimes people think that I walk the middle road. I just do what I think is right, okay? So let's start with our buddy there from the NRA, all right? I know a lot of people think the guy is whack. Some people think he's, the best thing since sliced bread. Here's my take on it. He said put armed guards in every school. Well, first of all, there's about 1/3 of the schools that already have armed guards, especially in the larger schools, in at-risk schools, and so forth. So he's not that far off base. We've had school resource officers here in Chautauqua County, and they don't necessarily serve as armed guards, but they serve as counselors. They serve as having a feel for the community and what's going on. So I'm going to give them a 0.5 point for that. I don't think that's so far off base, but here's the issue. The issue is that right now we are so financially strapped, whether at the state level, county level, school level, whatever, that something's going to have to give. So let's think about that very carefully of how we would do something along those lines, all right? If there's no money to go around. There's no money for these things, all right? The next one is having all the teachers have guns, all right? Now, a superintendent of schools, if that came down in front of me and I would sit there and think about it for a while, I would think, holy mackerel, this is a lawsuit ready to happen in a school system. If you ever has guns, think about the nastiest, meanest teacher you ever had, and all of a sudden now they're going to slap a gun down on their desk and they're going to, threaten you with a gun or use it inappropriately. There's people out there that are inappropriate when it comes to certain issues, all right? So I don't think guns with every teacher is the right way necessarily either. But if schools want to go that direction, fine. But I think there's some shortfalls in that. The other issue here is, of course, is the witch hunt that people are starting to get into. Is like, get all the crazies off the street. We have a lot of people that are dealing with mental disorders and mental health issues. They're thriving, successful citizens in our areas. Let's not just dump on these folks. Let's think this through very carefully. And the last thing I want to talk about is that the guy that posted the map in, I think it was New York City, where all the people had guns in their neighborhood. Hello? Again, I'm not opposed to people owning rifles and guns, hunting and so forth, and if they do it correctly. But posting the map and letting everybody, the bad guys, know where all the people have guns. Now, folks, if I live in that city, I don't have a gun, I'm a sitting duck. You don't give away information and security issues and things like that. Not a great idea. So bottom line, Reed, I think let's take our time with this issue. This has been an issue that's come up time and time again. Let's get it right this time. Let's get the smartest people in the room. Let's get the think tanks going. Let's think of the downside, the upside of every issue before we take action. And let's have a plan in our local schools, our communities, wherever, the churches, county buildings and so forth. Think it through carefully so that we're not ending up in a bigger mess than we already are. Back to you, Reed.
Well, well spoken. As you know, one thing you didn't mention is the hue and the cry from the politicians who are pandering to the public for gun control. There are only 40,000 gun control laws on the book now, and in today's news, they just arrested a neighbor for buying the guns for this guy because he could not own them under the gun control laws. There's ways around all these things. The only people who are controlled by gun control laws are the real honest citizens.
It's like grabbing sand.
Yeah, right. And so that probably is not a legitimate answer. And incidentally, the guy who suggested the teachers be armed said only nice teachers.
Defined as what?
Actually, that's probably the principle. You know, the pilots on all the planes have guns because they've got to protect themselves from a nutcake who could kill zillions of people if the plane goes down. And maybe it's the principal anyway, or somebody who's really responsible should have a gat. And if this starts happening, pull it out and shoot them away, blow them away. Well, I don't know what the answer is either, and there may not be an answer. You have people walking around like that woman who was muttering along the subway and then just pushed a guy off, crazy as a hootie owl, but there's no real care for these people. They've shut down all the hospitals for the mentally ill. They've cut sharply all our funding. There's a woman online who keeps begging somebody to take care of her son. He's threatening to kill everybody, and he actually has access to weapons, and she's afraid for her life. Kid's only, 12, 16, 14, something like that. But meantime, nobody's looking at him. Nobody cares until he does some real damage. And again, there's no getting all the nutcakes off the road. You can't do it. That's part of society. You're going to have 1 or 2% of the people who are just crazy as could be. All right, enough said. My editorial's over too. What do you think? What do you think, Laura? You're sitting here looking kind of wise and owlish. That doesn't really work. That's fake.
Wise and owlish. I don't know about that, Reed. But thank you for having me on again. It's always a pleasure. And
that's my pleasure.
Hello to everyone out there in Chautauqua County. And great to hear that we're now in Jamestown, which is the district I proudly represent in the north side of Jamestown.
Oh, it's wonderful. And thank Rosie over there.
Yes, thank you, Rosie. I know Rosie. Excellent job there at Time Warner Cable.
Terrific.
Certainly. Well, with regard to the recent shooting and the issue of the very, very sad and tragic situation at Newtown and so many other senseless shootings in the last decade or so in the United States, I think you hit it on the head, Reed, and as did John. Really, this is so much less of a gun control issue as it is a mental health issue. Until we address the mental health issues that we have in our country, then we're going to continue to see senseless killings, no matter how many more gun laws we put on the books.
Okay, well said.
Thank you.
They should pick up these people who walk around muttering and threatening people. But usually they just get to go on. One of the local, I won't mention his name, lawmen has suggested that he's running basically a mental hospital in the jail.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they have done away with most of the mental hospitals. So when somebody is really crazy as could be, they'll commit a crime and then they put them in jail and they just keep them there as long as they can, because they're crazy as they're a very terrible threat to society.
Sure.
And more of the prisons are being just filled up with nuts that they can't deal with. But it's only, it costs $50,000, $80,000, something like that a year. But it costs $500,000 to put them in a mental hospital, so it's cheaper to put them in jail.
Right.
Let's expand the jails a little and pack them in, keep them off the street.
Right, but very sad and ineffective in the long run.
Well, my heart goes out for those parents who lost their children and the children and the brothers and sisters. What a nightmare that was. And there was, of course, there's Columbine and so on. Columbine had a whole bunch of armed guards around the school. Nothing, no change.
And I think a situation like Newtown, where it hits parents like me, it hits all of us, but parents like me can reflect on that tragedy. And I have children those ages. I have a first grader. which is the grade of many of the children that were killed.
You have a whole passel of children.
I have a whole pack of them. 3, 4, 6, and 7.
That must keep you busy.
Absolutely.
No, now how does that must interfere terribly with your duties as a legislator. My gosh, you got all these kids that need mom, you know. And then there's your husband Chuck, who's a brilliant guy and been in county government for as long as I've been here, a long time. What's he do now?
Chuck works at SUNY Fredonia. He's in their government relations office. It's actually called the Regional Governance Office, and he is also second in command at the new incubator, not so new anymore, but the very impressive tech incubator that SUNY Fredonia sponsors down in Dunkirk to encourage economic development.
They bring a lot of chickens out of there, don't they?
Not that kind of incubator,
kind of incubator?
but a technology incubator. Very impressive, and some real cutting-edge companies growing in there. So, no, Chuck is doing well, and we are proud parents of 4 growing sons, and certainly, parenting is a partnership with regard to time spent. I think there are a limited number of resources in every parent's life, but public services.
Well, you must work like a dog.
Sure,
you are spread pretty thin.
We work hard, but parenting is my #1 priority, and then public service the close second there. And we try to.
Then third is the church, right?
Well, actually, God is the #1 priority, but
of course, children have to count for pretty high up the line here.
Hopefully, my husband and my work in public service provides the kind of example that.
I'll share something. I was with I was over the Episcopal Church for many years, and I was the person who read the things and did the introductions and so forth, and helped with communion and whatever. And one day the priest there asked me, what are your priorities, Reed? And kind of in a jovial, tongue-in-cheek, I said, well, first priority is the fire department. he took me off the list immediately, and I never served again.
Oh no! I thought you were going to say the Reed Powers show.
No, it's the bottom priority. It's just a pain in the butt sometimes. Getting over to Mayville in the middle of the night. Oh boy. Okay, so now here we are down to the nitty gritty. We also have some hardball questions to ask you.
Sure.
You are the minority leader in the county legislature still, right?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you served in the legislature?
I'm going in my 4th year, the 2013.
So you should know your ins and outs. Well, recently in the newspaper, I saw a shocking prediction. And a couple of the legislators, including Mr. Crosscut, had indicated that we should be ready for up to a 20% increase in our taxes.
I think there's been a lot of scare tactics out there, and the county executive had put forward a tax increase under this year's budget, and we were able to, I think, pretty diligently whittle that down to a tax cut. And so the budget is it's only a budget, and I think it's a matter of, again, when we talk about priorities, the budget is about priorities, and if it's a priority to pass the savings along to the taxpayers, then that's what we do, and that's what I'm committed to doing.
Well, as Mr. Crosscut and several people have indicated, this is another case of kicking the can down the road a little ways. The tax cut we didn't, the tax increase we didn't get this year is going to be translated into next year.
Well,
Excuse me.
And are you okay, Reed?
I'm fine. I'm just.
There's so much sickness going around, and I'm feeling for you here. You sound like my kids have been the last month.
Don't kiss me.
All right, I'll resist.
No French kissing, anyway.
I will resist this session. No kissing Reed today. I'm so sorry. But my husband might have a thing or two to say about that.
I don't kiss him. I would never kiss him.
As handsome as you are, Reed.
I would never kiss him. I'm telling you right now.
But when we talk about our local government budgets, I've always said that one of the things that we could be doing better to affect the bottom line is to provide for a more effective government, and by that I mean looking at some further consolidation and shared services measures. We have in Chautauqua County over 221, I believe it is, taxing jurisdictions.
You're talking about the schools and the county, the town.
Absolutely. The fire districts, the sewer districts, the towns, the villages, the cities, and that gets expensive. One of, as I've always heard and researched, and it's backed very well by the Chamber of Commerce, has always said, one of the greatest factors impacting our high cost of government in Chautauqua County and, thereby our high cost of taxes is our multi-layer structure. If we would streamline the provision of our government services, that is where you would see the greatest savings, the greatest
You mean like
reduction to our
towns
taxes.
with just one village in them, so that they're two different boards, two different garages, two different sets of plows, two different everything? Although
Sure. Well, there's a number of ways to slice it. I think one of the easiest ways to look at it is there was a study done on our highway department services several years ago, and when you have highway departments in every single town in Chautauqua County as well as the county, it's going to be costly. The study proposed potentially consolidating highway services, and that's just one service that is an example of where we could see some cost savings and consolidation for an overall savings to county taxpayers of I believe it was $1 million, so significant. The city of Jamestown right now is working with Chautauqua County to explore. It's been pretty well publicized, but to explore some consolidation opportunities with the Sheriff's Department and the City of Jamestown Police Department. And there again, some cost savings. I think Chautauqua County residents need to beg the question, why are we paying for so many duplicative services?
Okay, thank you. Phone caller, you're on.
Good morning, Mr. Reed. Good morning to your guest as well.
Good morning.
Ms. Cornell, you're talking about cutting and streamlining services throughout the county. How does this fit in with the county home issue, where the county executive is trying to streamline that cost, and yet we know that there are those that are against settling the home and so forth? How do you make that all fit in what you're saying?
Before she answers that, excuse me, Gloria, the county, he's talking about the county home, where the elderly, indigent elderly live and are well cared for. And we've had a county home for the indigent elderly since Chautauqua County was founded, just about. It used to be over in DeWittville. They called it the county farm.
Over 100 years.
Over 100 years, or more than that even. And they actually raised crops over there to help with the costs. And at this point, they're trying to dump the one loving thing we have for the senior citizens. And it seems to me, it's very hard to accept that. What do you think?
Oh, I do. I'm very concerned about the future of the county home at this point. And just to be clear on the caller, because I had this question, as the caller might imagine, many times in the course of the last year. And what I'm talking about in streamlining government services, in my mind, is a very, and I think should be in the minds of taxpayers, a very different thing from where we go with the future of the county home. Streamlining services has to do with our multi-layering in local governments. It has to do with the duplication of services. So when we have, I believe it is 29 or 30 highway departments in Chautauqua County, I believe it is, all providing plowing services, all providing road pavement services, all providing the whole slew of services that public works departments provide across Chautauqua County. Is that really the most efficient, the most cost-effective way to provide those services versus the county home issue? Yes, there is the philosophical argument out there. Is it appropriate for county government to be in the nursing home business or not? My response is yes. Exactly the argument that Reed just provided is that it provides for those most vulnerable in our community, the indigent. It's a safety net, if you will, for the elderly in our community. Streamlining services and getting rid of some of the unnecessary administrative overhead and multi-layering, I think is another.
You mean you're
question.
talking about at the hospital, the county home?
Well, I'm trying to address.
Streamlining is going on there. The unions have even jumped into this and said, "Look, we'll even take a pay cut. We can streamline in many other ways here." I can't think of it, all the details, but they could bring that cost way down.
Sure, absolutely. And You know, my response, I'm only trying to address the caller's question is, you know, he said, why not? Why not streamline government, get rid of the county home? And I'm saying, no, that's not my argument. My argument is to streamline some of the overhead. If we're going to provide highway services in Chautauqua County, let's have one entity doing that, or a more consolidated entities doing that. If we're going to provide policing services in Chautauqua County, then let's have a consolidated operation. It doesn't make any sense to me to have residents of the city of Jamestown protected by 2 police departments, for example.
There you go.
But yeah, and with regard to the county home, if I could take that up for a second.
Please do, because it is something that is really the talk of the town. Everybody is concerned about it, one way or another.
Absolutely. And I think at this point it's important to be focused on the question currently on the table, and that is the current bidder. You know, whether one supports or opposes the sale of the county home, I think that most of us can be in agreement that the current and only bidder being proposed by the county executive, a guy named Avi Rothner out of a Chicago-based nursing home conglomerate, is grossly inappropriate. He's a bad choice for the future of Chautauqua County. Whether you want to sell the home or keep the home, selling it to this guy is a bad choice.
Well, he was, I saw somewhere on a report that he was actually elected, one of their homes is the worst home in the state.
His group has terrible ratings. They've been rated as one of the worst nursing home operations in all of the country. They're repeatedly on state of Illinois lists for various cases of abuse and neglect, and it really goes to levels that we are so unfamiliar with here in Chautauqua County. You know, I don't care if we're talking about some of the hardworking not-for-profits that we have that do a great job, like Lutheran Social Services. We have the Heritage Group that operates upstanding nursing homes here. We don't have people like this in Chautauqua County, like this Avi Rothner group operating nursing homes.
He's going to sue you, of course, immediately.
I know, I better be careful what I say here publicly, but you know, it takes. It takes a degree of courage to go up against this is a David and Goliath situation here, and these people are the giant, and I don't think we have a full understanding of really what we're up against.
Okay. Also, it was reported in a recent article or statement that the company that's brokering it is somewhat questionable. I think they're being investigated by more than one state for fraud or something, and they've been prosecuted also. So it sounds kind of, I don't know, it looks a little fishy to me, whatever's going on here, but especially I still think it's worth a few bucks to have a refuge for our senior citizens.
Well, yeah,
give me a break.
I mean, that's the bottom line. But in the interim here, when we're, you know, if there are those, the county executive included, that want to go out and look for a buyer, let's at least look for a reasonable buyer. You know, and that's not this gentleman. That's not Avi Rothner. You only need to look at how he was obtained. The county executive went out and got this marketing firm called Marcus and Millichap, based also in Chicago.
Yeah, that's the broker that
right. Yeah, that's what you're referring to, exactly. So this Marcus and Millichap from Chicago went out and supposedly marketed our county home. They sought a buyer for our county home. And lo and behold, guess what they came back with? Only one bidder. You know, one bidder. There was another operation that was interested in potentially leasing the county home, but only one bidder, one potential buyer. And guess where that buyer was from? Chicago, with a long-standing relationship to the marketing firm. So,
well, it sounds like I don't know. Somebody said it smells. One of the people.
It did, yeah. Billy Coughlin had that well put. That yeah, something here stinks. At the very least, something stinks, and we really need to question if there is the will to sell the county home. You know, is this the appropriate buyer? And I would argue no. No, okay. I would argue.
That's your opinion. Well, let me ask you another question along that line. How many would vote for it? First of all, the legislature has to vote for it. And you got to get a 2/3 vote unless some sneaky son of a gun changes the law, makes it just 50-50, which has been suggested as a possibility. At which point they should all be put in jail, I think, immediately.
Well, I think that brings up another good point, Reed. I'm very confident in my colleagues and that I don't think there are the votes to sell the county home to Avi Rothner. I think in their heart of hearts, my legislative colleagues understand what this gentleman's operations would mean for Chautauqua County, and that would mean a focus that's not on the quality of care that we've long expected and enjoyed at our Chautauqua County home.
Okay.
So to continue to waste time and resources kicking this can down the road, I think the administration is remiss.
Okay, we got a couple of calls here. You want to
Sure.
take a call?
Sure.
Hey, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning. This little snowy burst of weather day.
Looks like it's definitely snowing out there.
Yes. I do have a question. I was wondering, I also believe that we should keep our county home, that it's important for us to have the control and so forth of what's going on with our elderly that need help in our own county. But I wonder why it has taken the union so long to speak up on this.
Yeah, I did note that they just chipped in and chimed in. Somebody said, "Why didn't you chime in 6 months ago?" We have a caller. We have a couple more calls. Just hold on. We'll be with you in a minute. Go ahead. So what about the union? How come they're stalling?
Well, I don't think that they're stalling. I mean, I think there's two sides of the story, and the public is hearing both sides. But my understanding is that the CSEA has repeatedly tried to sit down with the county executive over the course of the last year and offer varying concessions, and that they've just, that their concessions and their attempts have been met on deaf ears. I mean, even this most recent attempt, which really goes above and beyond, the county executive hasn't committed to responding to that.
It's funny, I heard other guests that have been on said the county executive is gung-ho to sell it. He wants to sell it.
Right. I think his position is why negotiate the contract with county home employees separately? Why go through the work of having to come up with different labor negotiations when at the end of the day he just wants to get rid of it anyway.
There you go, caller. Does that help?
Well, it helps, but it doesn't seem right, because even if he wants to get rid of it,
Right.
There's not just him to consider. There's the wishes of the residents of the county, for
Sure.
one thing. And, if he could get concessions from them, that would make it much more viable to keep the county home. It seems stupid not to at least listen to them.
Well, I completely agree with you, and technically, under state law, the legislature is not supposed to be involved with labor negotiations, and I actually got my wrist slapped the last legislature meeting because I was trying to publicly encourage the county executive to take up the union's latest offer, and he refused to commit. I'm not confident that he's going to act on it, and in the end, who loses? It's us taxpayers.
Well, I just hope that the voters of this county will remember that when the time comes to vote again, because having us lose something that is, I believe, vital to our county seems to me that it would be a dereliction of duty and call for not being reelected. That's my opinion.
That's an interesting point, because as you may or may not know, over half the voters in Chautauqua County who go out and vote are senior citizens. And we're the ones that are scared.
Right, and we're not talking about selling a grocery store here. I mean, we're talking about selling a county asset that protects those most vulnerable in our community. And if in public service we don't have a heart for our senior citizens and those with disabilities, I mean, who is it that we're out there protecting? Who is it that we're serving?
I agree 100%.
Yeah, we just spent over.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Send in an envelope. I'll get a self-addressed envelope, stamp it.
Sure.
I'll send you some gifts. I got $5 off for you twice over at the Lakeview. That beautiful
All right.
foot of the hill.
She deserves that. We like that caller.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's hang up your TV. That's what happens. You get a connection between the TV. We're with Lori Cornell. Lori Cornell is the long-suffering leader of the minority party in the county legislature, and we have another couple of calls. Good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning.
When you were talking about, I don't think you used the word streamlining or downsizing with the government departments.
Yes.
It feels a little bit like a double-edged sword to me because these people are making good money. And when they don't have the job anymore, we're going to lose some of the income and taxes. And they also will not have the money to spend in our local communities that they had before. Is there a way that we can create more jobs somewhere?
I've got one right now
We
for
can
you.
take care of these people that are losing their positions.
You know, the good do-gooders in the state have taken over cleaning up the highways. And I always carry a great big bag of trash with me whenever I travel and throw it out the window because you have to have workers to pick it up, theoretically, you know? And these are jobs that are lost, good state jobs.
Oh, no, I don't know if that's what the caller had in mind, but it was a good question. And I understand your concerns, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear. I'm not talking about reducing jobs at the county home to the extent that we're going to risk services at the county home. What I'm talking about is the great example that's being provided currently between the City of Jamestown Police Department and the County Sheriff's Department, where they have proposals on the table that would reduce overhead, that would protect the pay and hopefully quality of life of the officers for the great protection that they provide to all of us. But it would cut the overhead. So instead of having 2 heads, you have 1 head. You have streamlined office operations. When you look at the multi-layers of services provided in Chautauqua County, even just considering the number of buildings we have, the various highway department operations, we have salt barns. Some of them have now been consolidated, but look at all the salt barns that we have for every town and county station that's set up throughout the entire county. That's really where I'm looking at streamlining, not so much cutting personnel, but cutting the overhead.
Although there would be a personnel cut if you consolidated 2 different road departments in the same village. Like Westfield has one town, and they have their own road department. Then you have the village of Westfield, which is the only village in the town, and it has its own. And you think you've got an awful lot, like 2 town councils. I mean, 2 councils, you got a lot of people out there doing the same thing.
Well, there's over 500 elected officials in Chautauqua County, and we all only receive small stipends, but those small stipends add up to big dollars. So,
yeah, after a while.
Right. And, there's ways to protect, people's current status and current jobs by phasing in, but through attrition, etc. But we have to start somewhere, and I think that starting needs to have happened yesterday.
Starting needs to start.
Starting needs to definitely
we
start.
We have several different precincts in our area, districts where you have a town with just one village. Ripley is one, I know that.
Right.
Westfield is one,
Right.
and a couple others at least. I mean, I can't name them offhand, but Fred Crosscut could. Fred is in favor of selling the county home. I want you to know that.
Yes.
We've chatted with it, and there are 2 sides to it. It's costing us a bunch, not so much. We could cut back sharply and increase services and pick up a buck or 2 there. It's very strange that the state will not permit us to bail out by putting in some assisted living quarters and some rehab quarters, which they just say you can't do that for some crazy reason. If we had an assisted living assemblage next to it, we'd be breaking even well ahead, as a matter of fact. They tell me.
Well, there's many things that we can be doing to increase our revenue producing opportunities and cut our costs at the county home. I believe there may be an opportunity to even contract out assisted living services. Although we can't provide them ourselves as a county-owned facility, I think we might be able to contract out with a private entity, and that's just one example. The rehab services, I'm told, is another example where we are drastically falling short, where there's so many revenue producing opportunities there that we're just not going after.
Big bucks.
Big bucks. So, certainly.
There are a lot of fixes that we could apply.
Right. And I'm holding out hope for my good colleague Fred Crosscutt there too, where even if he believes that it's in the county's best interest to sell the county home, I'm holding out hope for Fred Crosscutt that he'll agree that at the very least this buyer, Avi Rothner, is not the appropriate buyer. And I do have to just give a little commercial to a video that was recently produced by Snowshoe Films, who I believe Karen and Roy Harvey have an affiliation here with Access 5, correct?
They did it. Yes, they come over here and talk to us once in a while about important matters in the county, and they're famous videographers. And
they're very talented and they're very committed, and I think they deserve the Citizen of the Year award because they do all of this research and work on behalf of the community just out of the goodness of their hearts, and it's really incredible. But they recently produced a video, and I believe it's available now on YouTube. If you simply Google YouTube or go to YouTube and enter in Avi Rothner, and it includes some excerpts from our October legislature meeting and some excellent arguments as to why the Rothner Group is not the right choice for Chautauqua County. And so I just encourage all of your viewers to really check out that video and forward it along to as many of their friends and family as possible. And call your legislators. Call those legislators, not like me, but legislators that are out there on the fence that need the convincing, that need to understand how important it is to vote no against Avi Rothner.
Okay. We'll have to, when Fred Crosscutt gets finished milking the cows, he should come in and listen to some of the things going on in the legislature. You're one of them, of course. Actually, Fred got rid of his cows.
He sold his cows. I know. I was just going to say.
He said it's just too much at my age. I can't go out and milk 40 cows or 50 or 100. How many he had?
No, he's still producing excellent maple syrup, though. I just got some of his maple syrup, and we had it for Christmas. It was amazing.
Yeah. Well, the wonderful thing about maple syrup is all the Asians now love it, and the price is rocketing. I mean, you used to be able to get for $30. You could.
Yeah.
Well, when I was a kid, we got for $8. You got a gallon of the B, which was it had more flavor. I loved it. It was a lower quality though because it was darker. Now, last time I looked, I think the Amish were selling it over in the park in Westfield at the farmers market for something like $40 a gallon.
Yeah.
And it was the light stuff, which is theoretically better, but I don't think it is really.
Nope, maple syrup is expensive.
Well, okay, and the Chinese have put in 1 million grapes. They like the Concord grapes, which may influence the price of grapes eventually. Okay, now we have sleigh rides. One of the callers came in. I got to read it because they wouldn't come on. Today, that's today. This is the 29th, right? 29th of December at Chautauqua at 1 p.m. You can go over and take a sleigh ride, and it's very cheap. Tickets you can pick them up at the bookstore or in the Boston Plaza, and it sounds great. Go over to Chautauqua today, 1 o'clock. Get on a sleigh and ride around the grounds. It's beautiful.
A lot of fun.
And the snow's flickering down. The sleigh should really go beautifully.
Yeah,
this weather.
Today's a perfect day for that. Dress warmly, though.
Right, there you go. Lori Cornell, our county legislature minority leader, you were elected, a year ago?
To serve as minority leader, yes. And as a legislator, I first got elected 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So you'd been in for 2 years when you were elected the leader, which is pretty good, considering, you had a lot of experience. But again, somebody told me it's because nobody else wanted it. They made you take it because you didn't have
It's the booby prize.
You didn't have seniority. You had to take it.
I agree.
Lori, you are doing a good job over there, and you are definitely the minority voice. You're quite active and quite vocal, and your feelings about the nursing home is just one example. If we had to address any other big issues in the county, what would you select besides the weed problem in Lake Chautauqua?
Oh, yeah. I would pick, if that's not a choice, I'll think of something else, but I would pick Chautauqua Lake or, there's several things in Chautauqua County I think that we can be doing more to improve our economic development opportunities. And the lakefront accounts for over 20% of our tax base. I think it's nearly 25% of our tax base. And We I think made a lot of good progress last summer in trying to address the weed problem, but where we really need to go from here, like we have the SAV plan going on now to address in-lake issues, but where we really need to go, I think where we're really remiss, is in addressing the watershed. How is it that the sediment and all of the inflow is coming to the lake to begin with? But yeah, I mean, overall economic development is, I think, number one, needs to be number one priority in Chautauqua County. We need to have a more aggressive approach in terms of creating jobs and providing for economic development opportunities.
Well, this weather is wonderful for Chautauqua County because we do have an influx of lots of snowmobiles from around the area.
That is a good economic booster. Absolutely. The snow is a good thing for them.
Hello over there at the Lakeview. Last time I was over there, the bar was completely full of snowmobiles, and they lay their helmets out, and there were helmets everywhere.
Right. The parking lot's not cars, it's snowmobiles.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And they do love to go out in the lake. One of the things I missed this year, and I have missed for a couple of years, is the little village that forms out on the lake. All the ice fishermen have their little hooch, and they go out and they ice fish, and they bring their girlfriend out, and they have a wee drop sometimes, I hear, a wee dram. But at least they go out and spend a lot of time out there, and it looks like it's real fun.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, as our lake is to economic development in the summer, so is snowmobiling to economic development in the winter.
Right. And they can catch some fish out there in the winter in those little huts. I've seen some of them. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really like little buildings.
Yeah, no, I know.
Beautiful.
I know. I haven't gone out and taken a first-hand look. Have you?
And not recently.
Yes.
I went out one time and I didn't have a little hut, and I almost froze to death. I thought I was going to die out there. It was so cold.
Oh, well, we would never want that.
Never. Lori, we're closing down here. I want to give you at least half a minute of time just to close off and uninterrupted. Go ahead.
Thank you, Reed, and thank you again for this opportunity. I always enjoy this show so much, and to reach out to the viewers in Chautauqua County. Again, so glad that you're going on a countywide basis now. Speaks very well for your excellent show here, I think. But I would again just reiterate that viewers out there who believe that the county home isn't the asset that it is need to take a look at that Avi Rossler video on YouTube that's been produced by Karen and Roy Harvey, and just forward that around to as many friends and family as possible. Encourage the legislature to reject the Avi Rossler bid.
Okay, that was the only bid they got too, right?
That's the one and only bid.
I think Absolute wanted to rent it for a
yes,
while, yeah.
Yep, there was a lease option from, yes.
Okay, Lori, Cornell, thank you for giving your time up in this horrific weather coming over here from all the way from where?
Just Jamestown, but I have to hike back down the hill now.
Yeah, I'll ride you down. Okay, I want to thank all those special people. Sorry, caller, we're out of time, but probably Linda. I want to thank some beautiful people out there. First of all, Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, Chris Burt, Randy Burt, Chris Ramaker, Jeff Zook, Don Zenz, and John Hamels for helping out and making this program possible. Lastly, I'd like to say, may all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. See you later over at Chautauqua for a sleigh ride at 1 o'clock. Bye-bye.